Hey good people, Big Heavy coming at you today with 3 of the most abjectly useless, generally pointless, overpriced, and frankly not that productive office upgrades that might actually be worth buying. So the first item I want to share with you is the Mini or Mini or whatever Pomodoro Timer. And if you're not aware, Pomodoro is actually Italian for overcomplicating a very simple concept so you can publish articles and notebooks and branded merchandise around it. And put simply, Pomodoro is basically a productivity tool, and the idea is when you need to do something that generally isn't that fun, that you don't want to do, you set a little timer and you do that activity for 5, 15, 20 minutes, whatever kind of your time threshold is. And once that timer goes off, you give yourself a little mental reward and do something fun for 5, 10, whatever number of minutes. And I like this productivity approach. I find it fairly helpful. Particularly, I'm not a fan of sitting down and doing PowerPoint slides. So when I need to go and work through some slides, I'll set my Pomodoro timer, I'll hit the button, and I'll usually set it for 15 minutes and find myself after those 15 kind of being in a flow state. I'll continue cooking for sometimes up to an hour or two, and that little mental trick of setting that 15-minute timer gets me through. Now there's a zillion Pomodoro timers available. The original concept came from somebody's kitchen timer. You can probably buy one of those at the dollar store. There's hundreds of apps available on your phone, many of which look beautiful and do all sorts of cool stuff. I have a little digital Pomodoro timer in my detached garage office, which is kind of cool. You sort of pick the time you want, flip it on its side, and then it does a nice little countdown and an annoying digital beep at the end. But this mini Pomodoro timer not only does the basic functions of timing something for 15 minutes, but they charge you like 60 bucks in order to do it. And that's way overpriced for what should be a dollar store item or a free app. But the reason I got it is it looks super cool. It has this almost sports car-like little sweep thing where the blue side goes zooming around. It'll then reverse that process for the countdown feature. You can go and set everything up so it's automatic. I'm not smart enough or patient enough to read the user's manual, so I just have it set up so I mash that button. It gives me a 15-minute countdown, gives me a nice little quiet, sort of soothing-ish electronic beep at the end, and lets me know I can go and waste my time looking at YouTube videos instead of sitting there and cranking out the PowerPoint slides that I'm supposed to be cranking out. Next up, any YouTuber worth their salt about 3 years ago would show up with one of those cool little matrix displays in the background with their YouTube subscriber count, might have the weather, stock quotes, Bitcoin prices, all sorts of cool stuff on there. And as always, I'm a couple or 3 years late to the trend. And the device that most people had, I forget the brand name, I'll put it down below, but it was like 300 bucks. And my hypocrisy for stupid, useless office junk apparently does know some bounds, because I wasn't gonna splash out 300 bucks for a little display that tells me a bunch of information that I don't need. But what I am willing to do is splash out 40 bucks for a little display that tells me useless information that I don't need, that's a third of the price, half the quality, and 5x more complicated to set up. And that's the Ulanzi display. Now, the device comes with some software from Ulanzi. You may have heard of these guys. They make tripods, they make camera attachments, they actually make a variety of pretty good stuff. And they do it relatively cost effectively and at a reasonably high quality point. What I was a little worried about was having some unknown kind of semi-trusted company having a device sitting on my network and doing God knows what. I also heard that the mobile app and the software that comes with it is at best not great. But there is an open source option where you can overcomplicate this thing horribly for yourself. And that basically changes the software on the device, replaces it with new software that's maintained by a community of people that are obviously kind and lovely individuals, and for whatever reason have chosen making obscure software for odd devices their hobby of choice. And what that allows you to do is pump essentially any information you want to this display using a convoluted variety of technologies, mainly MQTT and some web APIs. If you don't know what that means, congratulations, you're probably a normal human that has better things to do with their life. If you do want to embark on a wildly convoluted and complicated technology adventure, I'll put some links down in the show notes below, but essentially by saving those $280 and putting this new software on there, you can look forward to 100 plus hours of your time spent doing very frustrating configuration of open source software. So ultimately you can have a display that gives you useless information like your YouTube subscriber count, like the current temperature, which complements the 500 other digital devices in my life that give me the current temperature and weather, and arbitrary messages. And hey, before you say those are pretty rookie subscribe numbers, you can fix that. Mash that subscribe button with your favorite finger and we'll bump those up. The one useful thing I have done with this that's kind of fun is I linked it to my Microsoft Teams through, again, a wildly convoluted variety of technology adventures. And it will flash a little message on that says data's on a call when I'm on a work call. I'm gonna put one of these in the hall so when the kids come home and start their usual round of explosive noise making, hopefully they see that little thing that says dad's on a call and turn it from 11 down to 6.5. Number 3, once again, is an area where I was late to the hype train, but I would add a 3D printer to my list of useless, overpriced, overly complicated office accoutrements that you may want to think about getting. Now, 3D printing is cool and neat and all that stuff, but it's particularly neat for a home office. You can print all manner of goofy organizational doodads. I've got a whole selection of little trays that are custom designed and scratches that OCD part of my brain where I can put all my stuff in its own little spot. I've printed laptop holders, I've printed little cases for little technology projects, all manner of goofy stuff. And aside from the fact that you can generally customize things and it's kind of fun and to some extent miraculous to see this little machine sort of building a part or something you designed out of thin air with some plastic stuff, there are arguably some useful applications. Now, in terms of time investment, designing your own stuff, at least for me, is quite difficult. I'm not a designer or engineer by trade, but it's been kind of a neat skill to learn and explore. I don't know that the cost is there. A roll of 3D printed filament costs, I think, 20-30 bucks, and probably one roll can print about 2 drawers full of organizational doodads and bins that you could probably get for a couple or $3, again, at the dollar store. But they're custom, you can do whatever colors you want. It looks super cool, it's kind of fun, it's mostly useless, but it's something you might want to consider. Now I'll throw you a bonus. This one at least isn't overpriced, assuming you buy it on one of the myriad Prime days or whatever Amazon's calling its sale days these days, and it's their voice assistant. I have one of the cheap little ball clock ones in my office, and aside from the fact that it tells me the time and it automatically synchronizes and will tell me the weather and other useless information that's on the other useless display that I have sitting right next to it, what I really like is the ability to shout out tasks kind of as they enter my mind. And I'll be sitting there working away and I'll remember something and I can just shout out something like, "Hey Alexa, add stop making crappy videos to my to-do list."
I added stop making crappy videos to your to-do list.
You can do things like that. And I have it set up to sync with my favorite to-do app, which is called Todoist. I'll link that below, no affiliation. I'll link all this other useless junk down below if you're interested. But that function alone is worth the 20 bucks or so that generally this thing sells for when it's on sale. So not a bad thing to consider. I have one in my office. I have one in various rooms throughout the house, specifically so I can bark when something pops into my mind that I don't want to forget. And then seconds later it shows up on my to-do list. Yes, I acknowledge that Bezos and his homies are probably listening to everything I say. I'm probably already on the list of known deviants and the government maintained people to kill list, but that's fine. I was going to end up on that list at some point anyway. So this video is maybe a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but if you've got a home office, if you're working from home either by choice or by some external circumstance, there's no law that says you can't have a little fun. Get some little tchotchkes, get some goofy stuff, get some odd technology projects that are probably not worth the effort it takes to make them work with everything, but it's a fun experiment. Maybe you learn something along the way, maybe you have a little fun, maybe you develop some skill that arguably could transfer to something useful somewhere along the way. In any case, hope you have fun working from home. Hope you are able to bring a little joy, humor, and goofiness into your home office. And this is the Big Heavy wishing you all the best, maximal productivity with maximal relaxation thrown in there. Peace.